Township Shade Tree Commission meeting of January 2011, even though it's February 1. Last week's meeting had to be postponed due to the weather. We have 4 plans on the agenda this evening for review. The first one being 15 Ridgewood Road. Is the representation here tonight for that plan? Okay. We will then move to the second one on the agenda, 600 Maplewood and 752 Brook Road.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. My name's Kaz Holloway. I'm representing the owners, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas and Jill Nerney. And this evening we have Rita Kurlonis, who is the caretaker on the property, but she has extensive experience in landscaping. She was in the landscaping business for many years. And John Hosbach of Rockwell Associates, the arborist who presented the report for tonight's meeting. Okay. I also would like to share with you an aerial photograph, which I think will be very helpful with the plans that we submitted with the application.
And Cass, can you put one of them on the table so that that
Sure.
can be presented on the screen as well?
Right here.
Okay, and let them narrow in on it. Okay. Good.
With the application, we submitted the Alta survey and the existing conditions plan, both prepared by Chester Valley engineers. We do not have anyone here this evening from Chester Valley. But I believe the aerial photograph, which is in the same scale as the plans that I submitted, I think will be very helpful to show the density of the forest on the 36 acres of the site. Approximately 21 acres of the 36 acres are wooded, and the balance is unwooded. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Rita to just give a brief description of what the intent is, and then allow John to answer any questions regarding the report. Do you have any further questions for me?
Okay, so the plans that were submitted are of this dimension?
Yes.
Okay.
But it shows the topo, and the aerial that I just presented also has the topo, 10-foot contours.
Okay.
Okay. Rita?
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Rita Kurlonis. I work for Tom and Jill Nerney. I'm the caretaker of the property at 752 Brook Road. In my time spent on the property, going through the property, I've realized how much existing dead debris has already been fallen down due to the lack of maintenance on the property and proper forestation practices. As I proceeded with my inquiry, I also realized there was numerous dead standing trees on the property, which you are all familiar with. In addition to that, I identified numerous distressed, diseased, and vine-engulfed trees on the property. Also, due to the close proximity of many of the larger trees up towards the Maplewood Hill. They're so close together that they're shading out the environment, and there's no regeneration of our indigenous trees there. There's no cherries growing. There's no new tulip poplars growing. There's no black walnuts growing. It is so dense and shaded out that the only trees that are regenerating at this time are the beech trees. And what we're trying to do is to open up the property for the regeneration of the woodland area in order to maintain a sustainable, healthy forest.
Okay. What's your deer population on this property?
Sometimes I see 10 or 12. Sometimes I see none. Sometimes I see 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But the most I have seen is 10, 12 at one time.
Okay. I'm just wondering if part of your regeneration problem might be, deer feeding on the seedlings. So I just put that on the table for what it's worth. I understand there's approximately 48 healthy trees that are being removed.
I would refer to John for the exact calculations on that.
Okay. And 37 dead trees have already been removed, correct?
Only half of the dead trees have been removed at this point.
Okay, and that's due to weather and whatnot, is that okay?
Correct.
Because we approved the fact that you could go forward with the removal of the dead. So the remaining is about 115 so-so trees?
Yes.
Okay.
As you're aware, the township asked that we have a report done, and John is the one who has supplied the report to all of you about the conditions of the trees on the property.
Okay.
One thing Rita did do, and she's a little modest, she actually went out and counted every tree on
Yes,
the
I did.
property. There's 2,320 trees. I think John estimated 2,500, but Rita actually physically counted.
Okay.
So
It's a task.
if you look at the 54 trees that are in poor condition that we are asking to remove, that represents 2.3% of the total. And if you look at the fair to good condition trees that are being asked to be removed, that represents 2.07 of the total number of trees on the site. We also have photographs that really, I think, will be very helpful. Would you like me to put them on the overhead?
Before you do that, you've displayed the topographic map here. Is there some way that you can indicate the majority of the trees that you're suggesting?
Well, the trees are really spread around the entire
Throughout?
property.
Okay.
No one area has been more specifically targeted than any other. It is very well spread out through the property.
Okay.
The Maplewood entrance is right here. It's very hard to see because of the density of the trees, but the road comes through here, turns, circles. This is the, you can see the house location there, which has been removed. But that area was open. There were a few trees that were around the house that we protected during the earth moving that went on to remove the house. And then you can see the lower area down here is it's really open meadow and field. Yes. But there is not a concentration of either poor condition trees or healthy trees that are in any one location. We do have a picture, and it might help if, could I come up first before?
Sure, yeah, because they're not going to show up on the...
These pictures just show I'm sorry, these four pictures are just representative of how dense the forest is from different shots. Okay, I think it's very helpful.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave the heritage for last. Okay. Now, these are some of the fair or good condition trees that we're asking to be removed. In this particular picture, this tree that's leaning this tree we're asking to be removed, that's leaning. That tree, which is considered.
And that tree in the picture, which is curving quite a bit, is that listed as a poor condition?
No, it's actually labeled as a good condition.
That's labeled as a good condition, okay. Because the tree is healthy, it just is in a very bad form, okay.
You know, when I went about this and identifying...
Do you want to talk into the mic? Yeah.
When I went about this...
We can't hear, you're not in the mic, yeah.
When I started identifying the trees, I'm sorry, I did this with careful consideration.
Talk into the mic, please, yeah.
I did this with careful consideration for the environment and for the respect of the trees on the property. I didn't walk around and say, well, there's a tree that should come down. I took in the factors that were surrounding those trees. If there was a tree, you know, a heritage tree, and then a foot gap, and then another 24 or 28-inch tree, we chose to remove the smaller tree to protect the heritage tree. This was not done without thought, just so you know.
This is one of the other, it's actually John, is that the one with the large fruit? Fair. This is fair condition. But one of the 48 fair condition that are being asked to be removed. This is the long root stem. And then this was fair condition that had split. So that could be pruned, but it's being asked to be removed. And then we can go into the heritage. But this is pretty representative of the type of trees that are being asked to be removed on the site, of the 2% fair to good condition. This is poor condition heritage. Poor condition heritage. This is poor condition heritage. It's this tree. This is actually, this stem is dead. This leader, co-dominant.
Right.
Yeah. Heritage. Now these are poor condition, but they're live, but they're in a very poor condition. This is actually poor condition, and it's leaning, and it's right by the carriage house. It's actually, I'm sorry we don't have a picture of it, of how much it's leaning, but it's
okay.
Hollow inside. This is another poor condition heritage. So I believe there's 14 heritage trees. So of those trees, I just showed 6 pictures of very poor condition.
So, John, could you go to the microphone, please? Yeah. So you rated the tree. Could you just describe, or what standards go towards rating something as a poor condition?
I follow what's called the P. Can you hear me all right? It's actually a company called Trace, and they're out of British Columbia. And we follow the hazard tree appraisal system, which is based on 12 points. And we base it down in depreciation throughout the entire tree.
And a poor tree, a tree rated poor
Correct.
is,
Would have more than 2 defects.
okay, and might be unsafe, is probably going to die, or it's in poor health anyway, or is a hazard.
More of a
Okay.
hazard, unsafe.
Okay. I think my main interest will be then about the 48 good trees. So if you,
Yeah,
are
John,
there questions about the poor ones before, or others?
Yeah, of the 48 good trees, what's your sense of those? What's your opinion of those trees coming down?
I mean, they're all in good health. There's no structural defects at this time of inspection. They're good standing trees, and as you know, as I inspected them, there was no standing defects.
Okay. And if that were the case, then why are they coming down?
Rita will explain a little bit about that. However, she is trying to open up the property to allow more light, to establish a reforestation program.
regeneration.
Correct. And also to open up some areas for where they're going to, be able to maintain the other trees and plant throughout the, the existing forest.
John, what's the percentage of Norway maples in the woodland offhand, rough guesstimate?
From my report, there's only a handful. However, there is approximately 200 Norway maples in and among the natural area, especially down by the carriage house.
So if we wanted to open up a woodland,
Correct.
would you consider a good selection of a tree to be removed would be a Norway maple?
Absolutely. It's on the list of invasive species.
So how many Norway maples do we have on that list of 45 that are good trees that are coming down?
I'd have to count.
Howard, can you look real quick? I didn't see any.
Now, I don't think there's many on that catalog.
So if we want to open up a woodland and get rid of invasive species.
Sure.
But we're not keying out the #1 invasive species in our woodland. there's
Because
not-
most of the population is not concentrated with Norway maples in the areas we looked at. There's only a certain section, correct, along Brook Road and right below the carriage house.
Okay. Cass, where's the house going, the new house?
The site hasn't been selected yet, but the architect is Peter Archer, and the landscape architect has been selected, Henry Dornbrock, from Morristown, New Jersey. And he has already walked the site. The architect has walked the site 2 times. I believe the area of focus is the general location where the existing house, where the main house once stood. So our intent would be, once the site has been selected by Mr. and Mrs. Nerney and the architect, we would then have Chester Valley come in and do a site plan and do a tree survey of that immediate area to come back. Right now, the trees that are being asked to be removed tonight are not in the general vicinity of where the house was located. I mean, there are a few, but there are no.
There's probably around 20 in that area,
Okay.
the old footprint there.
Of combination dead.
Combination dead and of a large population of the heritage trees and large tulip poplars that are right.
Okay, yeah. There are actually 4 large tulip poplars that were right behind the house, which probably would have been, had the house remained, would have been removed to allow sunlight to the house. They were very tall, and but once the scope of the job went beyond the 6 that are allowed, even though it's 36 acres. They're included in this, so.
Okay.
There is one tree there, I'm sorry, there's one picture there that shows a heritage tree with a large tree right next to it, and it's the tree right next to it that is kind of representative of what Rita was talking about, the intent to try to help the better tree
Okay.
open up. One of those pictures shows that. And I think I did give you pictures of 3 or 4 fair condition trees that were leaning. So of those 48, you probably have half of those that are, even though they're not technically poor condition, they're growing at an angle within all the other trees. So that was the intent.
Okay. John, of the what you assessed, the tulip poplar population on the property in the heritage tree realm, any idea?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I think they're suggesting that several of the trees that are going to come down in the area of the existing mansion, or
Correct.
what was the existing mansion, those are tulip poplars.
That is correct, yep.
And what's the tulip poplar population like in the rest of the property? Is
I'd
it
say it's probably in the 20% range,
okay.
with beech being the, the dominant species.
Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Obviously, the property has not been cared for with trees for a long time, and you're doing a lot of good work in taking care of the trees. The one concern I have is where you're just cutting down to open up more light, because in a forested situation, trees that have grown together, actually the two trees right next to each other are not hurting each other. They're actually taking one down can cause the large tree next to it to be more susceptible to falling, to other issues. And growth of beech in our native woodland, the beeches are the last species to come in, and they have evolved to come in shade. So that description didn't necessarily sound different than what a natural forest here should be looking like. And the deer population in that area is high. We have land that's outside deer fence that we have no regeneration, and it's not because there's too much shade. It's because of deer.
Well, I mean,
So my concern is the trees that are in good condition that are just being cut down to open up more light. Norway maples, you could cut every Norway maple on the property, and that would be fine with me. That would be helpful.
but we are going to follow the Shelterwood method, if you're familiar with that, where you're actually
No.
leaving some of the adult shade trees in order to protect the young saplings as they start to emerge and regenerate themselves. So it's not going to be a total thinning. As I directed Rita, it should be done over a 5-year span.
But still, where there's I think Rita mentioned, let's say a 20 or 24-inch caliper tree next to a heritage tree and cutting down the 24-inch. I'm not, in many cases where I've seen that, the 24-inch caliper tree is not damaging the other tree, the larger tree, in my experience. Now, either one of you could, there are cases where it can, but other cases where they grow quite happily
I concur
together.
with that. I mean, obviously, that is Rita's opinion and objective. I can concur on both parts, actually.
In addition to that, I'm not just looking at two trees side by side. I'm also looking at a heritage that's 10 or 12 feet to the right of that, or 10 or 12 feet behind it. So I'm not singling out just these 2 trees that are within close proximity. I'm also trying to protect them on their sides as well by keeping those other trees in close proximity to it. So
And
that
so
we're
it's-
having,
yeah,
we're having
it's where those-
heritage trees, you know, every 10, 15 feet or so.
Right, and that's where I'm having trouble, where if there is a healthy tree that's just being cut down for the reasons you've listed, I'm not convinced on that. With the poor health and fair health trees and trees that are a possible danger because of their misshapen form, I can be convinced of that. But where it's just where there's a healthy tree that's going to be cut down, that is not an invasive species that's growing near another tree, I'm not convinced that that's going to be good for anything. So those are the only ones that I have trouble with approving. Yep.
Gentlemen, but that wasn't what's reported, not my report.
Right.
I didn't report that. To save heritage tree, I didn't report to cut down a tree to save a heritage tree. I reported to hook up light and to regenerate the forest, which is cultural light. That was Rita's opinion to cut down trees, help another tree.
Just curious, just from observation standpoint, Cass, you know what our ordinance is, right? So I work in a township every day. I work by the site. When we see log skidder, whole tree chipper showing up at a site and we don't know anything about it, we get a little excited, you know? We get a little excited about what's going on, what's happening over here, and why we got to pull you out of the woods to find out, you know, what the whole scope of the project is. You know, it seemed like we didn't know anything about what was going on until everything was already going on over here.
I believe I had a meeting with Mr. Malloy and Mr. Bauman while we were in the process of doing the house demolition, and said that there were plans to take out the dead wood first. If you look at some of the pictures, you'll see a lot of downed trees, and was told that that was acceptable and that could be done to clean up the site, and that did not require any going with the forward to the Shade Tree Commission. So I believe, and then when we asked about it, we were told to do the arborist report in lieu of doing a tree survey of the 36 acres. And all those conversations with Radnor was done long before any equipment showed up at the site. I think what happened was once the report came in and it was sent to, I believe Mr. Holden received the first copy of the report, we were told, and it was relayed to Rita, that it was going to be okay to take down the dead trees, to take all the trees that had fallen and to take the 37 dead trees down, and that permit was issued. And I believe that's when the equipment showed up. I do believe that once that equipment showed up, I believe there were some phone calls that were generated because of that equipment. But we did notify the township before anything was done. I just think it was a juxtaposition of the timing.
I mean,
John, when you visited the site, was any equipment already on site?
There was.
Okay.
That was the permit for the dead trees was already permitted, correct?
Yeah, the dead tree permit had already been issued.
That's what I was told.
Well, the permit didn't get issued until after I talked with you. And I saw the equipment over there before that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the equipment, there was general cleaning up. There was not a hydroax, but I guess a brush hog doing the multiflora rose, the honeysuckle, and removing the dead trees. Now, there was equipment there. If the tree, if Berg Construction brought in any other equipment, it was only in anticipation of the dead tree, of taking up all the dead trees. And I think they have some of them stacked right now, and both ones that were laying on the ground, and I think they've taken down 20 of the 37 dead trees that were permitted for. So I don't think there was any intent. I think once the equipment hit the site, I think it did get a lot of people's attention, but we had been talking to the township long before any equipment entered the site. And I think it took a couple weeks from the time it was recommended to me that by Dan Malloy that there would be an arborist. There was going to it was recommended that an arborist come and walk the site. I think
Right.
about 2 weeks had passed till John actually came to the site.
Okay.
But that all being said, nothing's been, they've only taken 20 of the 37 trees down. Nothing else has been taken down that is being asked to be
And all of those
considered.
are trees that are already dead.
Pardon me?
All of those 20 are trees that are already dead?
Yes, they were dead, yeah. And I think John would concur with that,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Well, I have no problem with taking down the 54 poor condition trees, and I don't have any problem with removing any invasive exotic species of any size. But then I'd like a more careful review of the good condition trees, the good and fair condition trees. So that's my feeling.
I'm with you on that, Bill.
I'm sorry?
I'm with you on that.
how would
point.
you suggest that we do that? What would you like to see? What I'm asking is, how would you like us to identify maybe, for example, the picture that I showed with the heritage tree with the 24-inch tree next to it? How would you like that?
The easiest thing for me is a plan showing the trees and saying which ones are to come down, and then discussing each one as to why it's coming down. That's one way of doing it. That's the way it's usually done here.
You know, the justification that I'm hearing is that in order to protect a large tree, perhaps a smaller tree is coming down, and we're trying to provide more light for regeneration, which may not have anything to do with the shade factor. John, I don't know whether you can shed any more light on the trees that you feel, as a certified arborist, are in question of coming down?
Out of healthy ones, the ones that are in good standing,
Yeah.
they're all in good health. I mean, the only reason that they're being proposed to be removed is to open up more light and to allow for supplemental planting down the road using native rhododendrons and mountain laurel, as discussed with Rodriguez. No bearing on the health. They're all healthy trees.
Mm-hmm.
But just so I understand, of the 48 trees, I think the 4 or 5 pictures I showed you that are leaning, that are in fair,
Right.
they're fair condition, it's leaning, it's okay to take those down from what is that correct, what I'm understanding? So what you would like us to do is identify, of the 48, if, say, 12 are leaning or in the condition as we've identified in the photographs, they would be okay, and then we could have our engineer come out and identify the 30 trees.
I would feel better with the ones that are rated as good or fair condition, that each one be discussed.
Okay.
So what I'm proposing to the commission is that we approve the 54 poor condition trees coming down, and then any species that is considered an invasive exotic, I'm proposing any of those trees could come down. So that would include Norway maples, but John has a list, and but any tree that is growing in a curving fashion, that's one I'd like to see on the plan, saying this is in good condition or fair. Yeah.
Okay.
But anything poor condition, I'm saying I'm fine with, and also invasive exotics. And as I understand it, if it's a 5-year project, then delaying for another month the approval of these 40-some or whatever trees, I don't see why that is a hardship.
That was my recommendation, the 5-year project. However, that's totally dependent on the caretaker and the owner.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would like us to have a plan of all 48 fair and good condition trees, so, but just a survey of those trees, is that correct?
Yes, and then with each one saying, and then we'd like to know why each one's coming down. So, yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of my interest, they have a lot of the sort of on the photograph here, mostly on the, I guess, the left side. I'll call it the west, but I don't know what the orientation of the north is. Most of the trees are up on the hill around where the house used to exist, and down on the right-hand side where it drops down lower, there's not very many trees. When you're taking down 100 trees or so, and putting up a total of 184 plus 184. It says on here you're going to plant 184 trees in 2 phases. It says that twice. Are we talking about a total of 184 trees going in, or twice that number?
184.
So the second line is just extraneous. Are they all going to be gone in the area where it's currently wooded, or are you going to plant some down in the other areas?
There's going to be some buffer plantings, I believe, and I think Rita could answer that question better.
When John came out, Tom and Jill had talked to me about a screening going up the right-hand side of the driveway and curving in towards Maplewood. And when John came out and he mentioned the mitigation, he said that he would be okay with using those 184 for the mitigation purposes. Then, in addition, we would go into the woodland area and do some additional plantings.
But that's not what it's saying on here. Not that. That's okay. But you're basically going to keep where you currently have woodland. That's where you're going to plant all the trees basically in that area. You're going to take some down and put more back there.
Yes.
But you're not going to expand the woodlands down towards Brook Road.
No.
What purpose is the more meadow-like area?
Come again?
What purpose is the meadow-like area parallel to Brook Road? What purpose is that going to serve? Is it going to remain meadow?
The grassy areas will remain meadow.
Okay. And how are they going to be managed?
Mowed?
Okay. Okay.
The property already looks
Thank you.
very nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
They commended on the cleanup. Looks great over there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've worked hard.
Yeah, looks
Obviously.
great.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I think what the suggestion has been is that a plan of the 48 trees be identified and then explain why each one is coming down, and then that be presented at the next Shade Tree Commission meeting.
Okay, but you're going to let the 54 poor ones come down, and the other species and stuff can come down at this
Right.
point.
Right.
But the 48 that are those you want to see stuff.
The good
next time.
and the fair, yeah.
Very good, correct?
Right.
And any of the Norways can come down.
Yeah, anything invasive or exotic,
No matter the size of the Norway.
right,
Yes, we are approving that.
right.
And
You
if
can-
it's some other invasive exotic species, that would be all right also.
Okay. I will report back to Mr. and Mrs. Nerney, but I'm sure that they will be happy to comply
Okay,
with that so that this can be presented next meeting.
okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
John, what's your last name?
Scott, HOS,
Okay, take your photos. Thank you, sir. I'm going to keep this one. Okay, 344 King of Prussia Road. Is there representation here?
I'm sorry, is this yours?
Yes.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's John Smerga.
John?
I am the engineer that's here for Dr. Fritz Walker.